Hello everyone, welcome back to 40 Days with Henri. Today's passage is taken from letters to Mark about Jesus. Henri writes, "Whenever, contrary to the world's vindictiveness, we love our enemy, we exhibit something of the perfect love of God, whose will it is to bring all human beings together as children of one Father. Whenever we forgive instead of letting fly at one another, bless instead of cursing one another, tend one another's wounds instead of rubbing salt into them, hearten instead of discouraging one another, give hope instead of driving one another to despair, hug instead of harassing one another, welcome instead of cold shouldering one another, thank instead of criticizing one another, praise instead of maligning one another. In short, whenever we opt for and not against one another, we make God's unconditional love visible. We are diminishing violence and giving birth to a new community." As we've gone through these videos, I'm sure that you've seen familiar or heard familiar things kind of pop up. Nouwen is somebody who wrote on the same themes kind of over and over, sometimes arguing or talking about them from different angles, but the same themes nonetheless. And obviously the theme of belovedness and what does it mean to bless one another and to reach out to one another is an important theme. And you get a little bit about that here. One of the Nouwen was really set firmly in this call to love as Jesus loved. And for Nouwen, there was this deep cry of justice as a part of it. And so often when Nouwen talks about loving one another, he talks about the poor, and we can so easily spiritualize it. But for Nouwen, there was a real world application. So Nouwen marched with Dr. King in 1965. Right? So he had heard of kind of the march on Selma, and he said, that the call of the church is to be a part of that, and so he went down and he marched. He had a strong sense of justice that led him to Latin America. He wrote a journal about that called Gracias, and then to talk about the plight of the poor in third world countries. And at one point, he thought he was going to be a missionary. But so for Nouwen, the call to love had a real world application. It wasn't just something we said. That it naturally pushed us. The love of Jesus naturally pushes us away from the systems of oppression in this world. Or as he says, the world's vindictiveness and the violence that sometimes happen. And the call of Jesus is to step away from that othering of people in radical love and in radical embrace. And one of the reasons why I love this passage is just because he goes on and on and on that this is about forgiveness, right? When we forgive instead of letting fly at another, instead of condemning, it's about forgiveness. It's about blessing one another and not cursing. It's about tending to another's wounds. It's about encouraging people. It's about, heartening them. He says, hearten instead of discouraging one another. It's about giving hope. It's about hugging and not harassing. It's about welcoming and not throwing up a cold shoulder to another. It's about welcoming and not criticizing. It's about thanking people. It's about praising and not maligning. It's about being for others in such a radical way that we incarnate the love of Jesus for the other person. Nouwen has a deep conviction that if we were to live this way in fullness, choosing to live this way in everyday life, that it's transformative. It's transformative for us, but it would also transform this world. Because the way of the world is continually a way of victimization. It's a way of oppression. It's a way of othering. It's a way of violence. And yet, if we could choose that different path, that path of Jesus, that path of love, Nouwen says we could actually be a part of birthing a new community, of transforming ourselves, each other, and the world. May that be part of your walk to the cross with Jesus as you go through this season of Lent. May you think about how you can practically and in real world application live out the love of God. God bless you as you journey through the season of Lent, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.